when Tony gets here, he's supposed to be sitting in. Okay.
Say it again.
When Tony arrives, he's supposed to be here. Very good. Good morning, all. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and we'll start with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Was there any corrections to the November minutes? Any other responses? So things were in order with that. Okay, is there a motion to approve that?
I'll make it.
Okay. Second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Very good. And the January minutes, are those also in order? And you should have been here to give a response. Okay, second?
A second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Very good. Thank you. And the first item on our agenda is an application to replace a set of gates at 19 Sag Pond Court. Is someone here for that? Okay.
Hello, everybody. Ian Gamback with the Board Design for the applicant. We're here to present a set of 4-foot tall driveway gates to replace an existing set of 6-foot tall metal wrought iron gates. The location of those gates will be moved in from approximately 25 feet off the road to 40 feet off of the road. The detailing, as I mentioned, would be changed from a black metal gate to a natural wood Sapelli mahogany, left to weather natural gray. And it's an open slatted, highly transparent design, as you can see in 3D renderings.
We have to. Is that this one?
There are 3 other sets of gates, sometimes 2 with shared driveways there. Was there a reason in particular? And they are all sort of probably pre-existing, or at least not cohesive to what we've been approving in the last 12 years or so with the 4-foot minimum, and because they're all peaked in the middle. Was there a reason that you were going away from that design, which is sort of within character for the entire street at this point?
Yeah, so the style of the gate was meant to complement the style of the house, which is being updated. I know this house was in front of the Ahrb previously, and so that's been more modernized or at least updated. And so we wanted a gate that complemented that style. We felt like a traditional white picket driveway gate that you see on the neighborhood or in the neighborhood
Yeah, that was
wouldn't
one,
be in
yeah.
character with the home.
It's more fun than the other gates.
Yeah. They all have gates. I'm just looking at the map. There are a lot. The
There's a
neighborhood.
number down there. on South Pond.
There are 4 that have gates. Some of them have 2 driveway entrances, and then there are 5 residences or driveways with no gates. Okay, so it's not the majority of the structures.
Should be. They have a reason for the need for the gates.
Just vehicular security.
It's not a very busy street.
It's not, but it only takes 1 car, right, to violate your security, and their house is set back, so by the time somebody's on the property, they're in the private part of the property.
I guess the question is for something that's visible from the street to everyone and visible to the owners is it paramount that it goes with the rest of the neighborhood and the street for the sort of innocent bystanders? Or does it follow the aesthetic for the personal person that is creating the situation?
I think it's a great question. I think the difference, it's ironic. I actually represented prior homeowner on the prior driveway gate.
A
And
niche,
so-
niche position here. Watch out.
Yeah, very different tastes on that homeowner. That's a number of years ago. But at the time, a number of those white sort of traditional driveway gates were being posed. And at the time, those were right on the street edge, or very close to the street edge, you know, and we stepped ours back. And there was sort of justification for that relief, allowing for a change in that. Right? I think now that we're stepping even further back, given the current code, 40 feet into the property, I think it's paramount that you do start to speak to the architecture more.
Yeah.
I don't see this as more of a garden gate at this scale and at that location on the property. Whereas the gates that are out at the street, I think it is more important that they start to feel like that language is a little cohesive.
Understood.
How would the board feel about this further back?
How does,
I say, how would you feel about it being even further back since we have a purview to?
Yeah, it looks like the distance to the driveway pull-in is about 190 feet or so.
To the front of the house, Nick?
No, to where you're entering into the parking area.
Yeah, roughly, I don't have the.
Yeah, no, I'm just doing a quick scale
Yeah,
from
sure.
the rear yard. It looks like about 190 feet, so looks like there's quite a bit more room to move it further back if they'd be willing.
Well, I think the thing to consider there, and it doesn't necessarily read on the survey, but I think you could probably understand it if I could explain it. There's a space in between that front hedge, bless you. There's a space in between that front hedge on Sag Pond and the tennis court. Based on the placement of that tennis court, they have this functional lawn panel, right? So it's a usable lawn panel. I think they want that to feel like it's on, I know they want that to feel like it's on the interior of the property. Whereas when you start to slide that gate past the line of the tennis court, it gets cordoned off, right? And your access is somewhat limited to that lawn panel. I think that an adjustment could be made. I just think it would be maybe a 5 or 10 foot adjustment that would make sense in terms of not cutting off your access from the driveway to that lawn panel. If you go too far back, the combination of that gate and that tennis court is going to keep you from accessing the lawn from that side of the property.
well, you could go back to where the curb in the driveway is, for example.
I think that might be you mean the existing driveway.
See, that's the 40, this is.
Yeah,
the new
that-
drive.
so that-
I see the new driveway.
Yeah, new driveway is just a straight shot.
And to the tennis court, on the survey says it's about 86 feet.
Yeah, I scale out that you probably have another 20 to 25 between the corner of that tennis court where this is currently proposed. I would think maybe half of that distance would allow you to still move that long from the driveway, but give you a little more room on the driveway.
This panel that you're describing, is this a hard structure?
The lawn panel?
Yeah.
No, it's just an open rec lawn.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just solid lawn.
If you were to set this back the 10 or so feet you had mentioned, would the landscaping stay the same? So there would be trees in front?
Yes, could I show you this plan? I don't know if it's part of the package. Would be helpful in understanding the relationship. So there's this procession of existing crepe myrtles that we're gonna replant. I think this massing of the hedge and that position of the gate could slide back 10 feet. And I think the spacing would still feel appropriate on that LA. It would allow you to sneak by the hedge around the court and get between the new hedge for the driveway.
Yeah. My first, the design a little bit.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. So this is an LA of 8 trees. And I was just saying, if you still this position back like 10 feet, I think that would allow you to still move into that lawn from the driveway without starting to impact the layout of those trees. Which would be, I think, a reasonable compromise in terms of function.
Yes.
So,
And there's no action, right?
I could submit that
Yeah.
too. Is it?
When you're done with it, right?
No, I think I got it.
And would your client be inclined to keep the existing gate if this doesn't get awarded, or?
I haven't had that conversation. Yeah.
I mean, that
I
was a
think it's a
spec,
dramatic improvement.
that wasn't a speculation at all.
Yeah.
A beautiful design, and I appreciate the much more open feeling of the gate and the lowering of the gate. But I do feel the vibe, the energy you get from the street, if you're taking a walk, dog or something like that, or even driving around, still feels very sort of closed off and, you know, not really that open Sagaponic feeling that we love. And you have a beautiful LA that it's nice to see. And I just feel like if you set it back even more to the tennis court, maybe even, it would just be less.
I guess the only thing I would say in response to that is, as we set it back, the need for privacy with the hedge remains. So it is creating more of a corridor. And I don't know that it'll 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet will feel any more open to the street. It'll just feel like a longer corridor and more of a tunnel effect. I think the way we're trying to achieve the transparency is really the height and then the detailing of the gate.
What is the anticipated height of the hedgewood?
So there's two hedge heights that we're showing in this rendering. The one is the existing hedge height that's along the street right now, that's roughly 10 to 12 feet. We were thinking that we would step down to 5 to 6 feet on the hedge that flanks the driveway gate. And then that would step down to the height of the driveway gate, so that you start to get this layering that I think would work better with the scale of the gate than if we were to simply go from 10 to 12 all the way down to 4. So again, trying to see more of the house, see more of the sky, open up the property a little bit at that frontage.
This is about 80 feet. Right, this is, yeah, plus this is. This is about 80 feet. I think I would prefer to see it step back a little bit further. Myself. Next suggestion of, I think it was.
Next suggestions, one.
I mean, of course, we'd rather not see any gates.
I understand that.
And it's, you know, we have this at every meeting. And the need for it, you know. There are some occasions where they're really busy roads with people with children, and occasions where it's actually something that is recommended to this, which seems on the outside of any real reason. With, I mean, does someone really drive 180 feet or more before they realize it's the wrong address, you know?
Depends on how well you back up a car.
I don't know, it's just, to me, this is in a lower category of need in my mind, so I'm just gonna leave that comment.
I'm not sure if it's a Ahrb or a John question, but would they be allowed with the existing gates, with the existing design to move it to the new driveway?
The existing design does not fit the ARB's design guidelines. It's in our code. That gate would not be able to be placed where it is, nor would it be able to be of its size and dimension by our code today.
Would that necessitate them, would it be pre-existing non-conforming, or would it
If
be?
it stays where it is, it's pre-existing non-conforming.
Okay.
In order to have that gate relocated on the property, I would have to inquire about it.
Yeah.
Never had anyone ask me that.
Yeah, but it's potential, it is the lesser of two evils if they keep the existing gate versus this one. It's fair to.
You feel like the taller gate on the road frontage is more desirable of the two?
No, but saying that
That's
if,
reasonable.
if we say no to this one, they may, given as many gates and near incessant gate meetings every month, it seems that it is of value to the newer generation of
It's
Sac
an
residents.
appearance thing, I think.
Yeah,
You know, the people who end up out here from various different areas feel that they're moving here because it's a lovely place, and then they take steps eventually through various processes
to obviate.
to change the entire character of the village,
Mhm.
which with a family 325 years here, it's really annoying to see the change, to be honest. You know, the beauty of the area, there's not that much left of it that I can remember from the 60s and 70s. And the frustration is this
Miniaturification.
it's you're just shooting everybody else and yourself and everybody who's been here in the foot as far as trying to come in and not mess it up. And so many people just don't see that concept of not messing it up. So I'm sort of where Nick is with it.
It's a beautiful design.
I appreciate that.
It's really well done, and I think you can have a very good argument.
Just move it back to the
Nick is saying
But it's a good
regular development.
vision for us.
I understand that.
The existing gate is hideous.
Well, I guess that's where I'm trying to come from, and I can appreciate the argument that was just made. I really can. We're trying to improve something that we feel like is suboptimal right now within the scope that a client's requesting of us. So he purchased the home because it has the gate and it has this security component. We're trying to favor natural materials with the wood. We're trying to reduce the height, trying to set it back, meet the guidelines of the village. We're trying to open up the property more. We're trying to do these things, but also still fulfill the requirement. I do think it's an improvement over what's there, but I can also understand all the considerations.
Well, the design is, to me, it's certainly an improvement, but the need for a gate on that quiet street is escaping me.
I don't pretend to understand the psychology of all of my clients and what factors into them making decisions, like purchasing a home like this, but he purchased it based on what was there. And so the driveway gate was a component of that existing property. And that's why he was interested in this particular. Well, I think it's personal preference, yeah. It's personal preference. He may or may not have understood the nuance of the driveway gate code on it, but he knew there was one there. And so I think that factored into this.
I doubt that's why you bought the house.
I doubt it was the only reason, yeah, but I'm sure it was a component.
what I'm gonna suggest is go back and ask him if this is really necessary.
Sure.
Okay. And also how far back he would be comfortable with having it.
I can do
Since
both.
we have the ability to do that.
Absolutely.
I realize it's a conversation that he's probably not gonna really wanna hear, but I think he needs to realize every one of these applications for gates comes through and it's just heart-wrenching for some of us to see more barriers throughout the entire community.
I can understand that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So much.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Next application is to finish up on a solar installation at 778 Sag Main Street. Is there someone here for that?
Yes, this is Paul Kessler from Green Logic Energy, joining you via Zoom.
So, as I recall, we expected the panels on the new structure. There was some hesitancy to say how many and what we were going to be placing on the new main house. And I see from the array that there's a few of the panel work laid out on that. Are these to be angled in any way?
No, they're going to be on plane with the roof structure. And I believe all of the modules that you see that I have drawn over here were included in the original application for the building. So it's nothing in a new location that was previously applied for. Right, I guess what I'm trying to say is you've seen this before, right? If I was to remove the black rectangles from my drawing here, directly underneath them are rendered in white modules.
Right, yeah.
So these are, there's no north, south, east, west on this piece of paper, but I happen to know which is north, south, east, west.
Are you looking at the site map that is up?
Yes.
Say that again, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
We're
On the
looking at
screen
the
is
same-
Yes, there's a north arrow on the site map, just on the right side.
So the arrays are mostly on the east. I'm sorry, west.
Yeah.
Okay. Were there any questions from the board on this?
I guess I'd like to see how the elevation.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we had elevations. Do
It's a
you
lot.
have anything like that that you can share with us, Paul?
You know, I actually might have something like that in my files if you give me a moment. I know nothing was requested for this meeting at the time. Stand by, please.
Southish and westish.
Well. There's the street out here.
Yeah, so this is southish and this is westish.
Right, so they're on the backyard portion of the
Facing.
structure. Except for this one, which we knew was going to be,
But Tom, is this a flat roof?
that's a flat.
And these are pitched?
No, they are not. He says they're flat.
Yeah, we need,
These
we
were
need
pitched.
more of a representation than this.
Why are they just coming to us with this now?
Hmm?
Why are they just coming to us with this now?
It was conceived and part of the projected application that it was going to be a electric house. If you recall.
I do not recall.
There's a lot of trees there too.
Are you guys able to see my screen here?
Yes.
Okay. I believe, was this one of the architectural renderings that were included with the initial application from the architect over there that's showing the location of the solar modules from an isometric bird's eye perspective from the south looking north?
And just a question, Paul, is it possible to take all of the panels or majority of them away from the public facing higher gable structure and place them on the shed structure?
The shed, are you able to see my cursor?
Yes.
Okay, so you're talking this structure here?
No, where you currently have panels on that building.
Oh, remove them from this structure here and
Yeah.
place them on the lower end?
Yeah, because that's
Okay.
not seen by the public, correct?
Yeah, and reason being for that is they would have little to no impact on the energy production due to the large trees that are kind of hiding that roof, which is why you see the modules themselves pushed higher up towards the ridge. On that side is there's a large locust tree. I believe that's kind of rendered in here, but not probably in photorealistic and geometric, geologic or the correct detail. Really, I'm showing the proximity and location to the roof structure over there. So that is going to be considerably more shaded in that area than is shown here. So the modules would have little impact on energy production for the home.
I might be conflating applicants, but was this the one where they were planning on sort of mildly recessing the panels to be flush with the shingles and sort of a crazy water catchment system, or?
I mean, we do those all the time. They're beautiful. I don't believe on this project that that's in the scope. And that wasn't presented as such during the initial application.
Okay.
And they're not white, right? They're black.
No, they're black. Yeah, I can, let's see here if I could bring up another quick rendering that I did of the project from the initial stages to give you a better idea here of what we're looking at.
Unless there's no flat roof. Are you guys talking about a flat roof?
Or barely pitched?
There's one slightly pitched and one more pitched, I think. It's not really flat.
This is the backyard looking towards the.
Yeah, looking at the larger structure up there. Now that has changed since these are some initial,
Right, the angles were changed.
you know, the structure of the roof has changed, I believe, because, you know, the it's in more of an L shape, I guess now. But rendering still kind of will give you the idea of what.
Well, let's say that the trees were somehow damaged during a storm. If you're driving down Sag Main, you would see those panels.
Yeah, that's correct.
Is there enough property to the west to be able to have sort of a solar farm or solar garden that would be unobtrusive and sort of hidden off in the corner?
I think.
A ground mounted array?
Yeah,
You know, I can't comment on that, whether it'd be a viable solution, but all I could say was that this was in the initial application that was presented with the renderings.
not for a
That would be,
maintenance
I mean, we do ground mounts all the time. I'd have to look at what it would take to do the concrete and racking structure and wiring, and they would certainly be less efficient somewhere on the ground at a flatter orientation and pitch to keep them hidden. You know, that you.
Well, largely, there's a formal garden that they're hell bent on preserving, so that carries with it its own sort of height restrictions to the south.
What I can say is my systems are beautiful. They're all black on an Invisimount cantilevering module. You know, we are ensuring that the geometry of the system here, right, is matching the roof profile. You know, we want to keep the same shape, right, of everything within the roof to not make it. I don't want to put a triangle within a square or a trapezoidal shape, right? So we want to kind of match everything of how it's going to look. And you can kind of see here on this second layout of why we have this this design goal, right, to stay away from the shading that's going to be present on this roof. And, you know, we even have modules that are going to be in the shade from this chimney here. From a power production standpoint, it's not great, but aesthetics, it's going to look good. Just matching that top side of the roof.
Mhm.
Can you explain why the flat garden version is not as powerful?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Can you explain why the garden flat version is not as powerful?
Yeah, for sure. So a perfectly oriented solar module, right? Like let's call it this array here, right? Say I have a 100-watt panel and I orient that 100-watt panel directly south at about 30 degrees, which this is very far off from. It's not very far. It's about a 200-degree azimuth 30. It's about as perfect as you get for solar production. That 100-watt panel will yield us 130 kilowatt hours in a year's time, right? That's the power it's going to generate. If I take that same module and I flatten that out, or if I turn east or west, let's say I take that module and I put it completely flat. Instead of 130 kilowatt hours that I'll yield in a year's time, I might yield 102 kilowatt hours. So I'll lose 30% power output from changing the tilt and orientation of that module. So multiplying that over the course of the system, right, is going to impact my system's performance in terms of somewhere around 30 to 40% less energy generated. Just by changing the pitch and orientation.
Even though the sun is most powerful when it's overhead, it still doesn't equate.
Yeah, for sure. So on averages, right? So to collect about 132% of the nameplate rating of a module at our azimuth, you will need to orient that module directly south at about 34 degrees is perfect, right? If I flatten that out, the angle of irradiance, right, hitting the module is going to change. And that over a year's time will result in less power production.
Thank you.
Is it gradual from 0 to 30, or is there sort of a?
Yeah, no, it's floats, right? So if we tilt it, if we turn it directly east, but we flatten it out to 15 degrees, I might only lose 20% power production, right? But this is, you know, a surface as good as it gets.
Yeah,
So
and the panels are how wide, the narrower side?
40 inches wide.
Yeah. It seems you could still have them, just for argument's sake, at 30 degrees if they were separated by, I think, 20 inches. You won't have
I'm sure you're talking about like inter-array shading.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, I wouldn't be doing that on a ground mounted project. I mean, if you want to see exactly what one of those look like, just bear with me for a second here.
I think there's one on the town line. It's not the prettiest thing, but at least the land's harvesting something, you know.
So I wouldn't consider something like this less obtrusive directly if it was really hidden, but to install a system of this size, basically this is what you'd be looking at, would be 2 arrays of all black modules that would look like this,
That's
right?
Not a great plan meeting suggesting that.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So I feel like, matching the geometry of the roof with a beautiful module while I'm able to generate a substantial amount of electricity for the client, meet their HERS rating, and do it in a beautiful way that also kind of advances the building technology of our time. It's a good option for the home, but that's of course left up to you guys.
I struggle especially with this because it's in the historic part of the town. And as desperate as we are to move into the future, and as impressive as this is, it's conflicting for me personally.
Right.
And you would absolutely see a lot of it from the street.
I think we're gonna have to see some renderings from the street.
Okay.
And maybe sample them, and
In the winter.
Well, the house 2 doors down has solar panels still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the.
and Paul, these are non-reflective panels, right?
Correct. Yeah, the goal of most solar manufacturers to as best of an anti-reflective coating that they can on the modules to absorb the most irradiance that they can. So they do have an anti-reflective coating on them, yes.
Do you wanna-
Maybe we should just request additional information.
Do you have to check something like this with the neighbor? Tony Manheim is gonna see that big bank.
I don't know whether he's gonna see it or not.
I don't
You
know if
can't,
that's
you
necessary.
can't not see that.
Okay, so I think what the board would like to request for the process of doing our due diligence with this on behalf of the residents is to see some mock-ups of the panels on renderings from perspectives on the street.
Sure.
Be workable. I realize that'll create some work for Mary to come up with that, but I think it would be very helpful and also demonstrate that we're doing our due diligence.
And maybe,
Right.
ask them their thoughts on a solar garden. If there's a ton of land back there.
We broached that.
There's a pool house.
The pool, the
back
swimming
there,
pool, everything else goes back
Hey.
there.
There's-
This perspective is not accurate to what is coming.
This is all actually taken up, pool house and pool and garden.
Maybe it can go on a pool house. Hi.
Hey, everybody, this is John. Sorry, I'm a little late. I've been in a meeting I couldn't get out of. I understand there's some issue around the solar placement.
There's just concern as to the visual impact from the street.
So I just want to point out that putting solar on the roof was an absolutely critical part of this design for the 5 or 6 AHRB meetings that we had.
Mhm.
We made a lot of concessions and changes to the design to accommodate the various aesthetic issues, but never once, and all of our plans showed solar on the plans on the roof, everything we presented, and not once did I really hear that we were going to have to rediscuss the issue of putting solar on these roofs. The whole reason, the core part of the design of this house on the north side is that this house has incredible southern exposure, unfettered by trees. Okay. And we initially wanted a shed roof, as you may remember, and we settled on on a symmetrical gable, converting to a shed roof for aesthetic reasons. So it's nicer to view from the street, or more you thought, not I thought, but you thought in context. But there was no mention. And I think you all remember the many conversations we had about solar which we can go back and look at the record. And I have to say, when I got an email or text saying that we were revisiting this, I was shocked. I think we've had, 5 or 6 AHRB meetings in good faith. We had a lot of back and forth. And I've said many, many times that solar was absolutely critical. We want this house to be net zero. We're not going to put it on the ground. The whole point of this lot, is all of you know, is the landscaping is amazing. And we're not going to put solar on the ground. That was the whole point of the design here. We've started to break ground. You've given us a permit, and now you're retrading, I think.
John?
Yeah.
One of the factors here is that at least 2 to 3 members of the board have changed since some of the discussion with you.
But
That's not your responsibility, but
Okay.
it's understanding that there's different perspectives on the board at this
But
time.
also, we didn't see any of the early renderings with solar panels
Right.
on them. We weren't sure if they would be inset into the roof, because there's ways, as Paul was explaining, of making the panels to be inset into the roof in such a way that they're less visible. So I don't think we're.
Yeah, but that would have been,
that
In the
incorporates the
design,
structural.
that would
Those
be-
are structural issues.
yeah, that would have been in the design plans way before this would have been submitted to be, it's under construction, so it's not like that's an option at
I
this
just don't remember
point.
seeing solar
So-
and showing it.
I remember, I think everybody, while they're new members, I think of the HRB technically, I think many of the people who are now members were part of these conversations. I remember, for example, Anthony, when we were talking about the roof in the last meeting, flipping from a shed roof to a symmetrical gable to a shed roof, that's like a lot of engineering. And potential, leak issues in 20 years, 30 years, we agreed to that. But it was all part and parcel of this idea that we were going to put solar on the roof.
So let's work together to ensure that, we just see the viewing of the solar from the street in the way that it's intended, and let's just go in that direction.
I'm not totally following.
So I personally don't remember seeing renderings from the street. Obviously, we're trying to protect the public view, and you do have those amazing trees. Of the way that the roof would appear, and the design of the solar on that roof, because there are, as I was explaining, Paul was showing us different ways of presenting that roof onto a structure so that's more or less visible. I think for me anyway, my contention is just to see that it's being done in a sensitive manner, and that whatever the view from the public on that street would be at least known by us before we approve it.
So if you remember, the front of the 2-story building now has a symmetrical gable. Okay, you do not see the roof, the solar, if you look straight onto the building. Okay.
Yep.
You're certainly not going to see it from the north side because it's only on the south side. And you'll also remember that one of the reasons we, put the home office in the front, and there are a bunch of reasons. It made a lot of sense for a lot of reasons, but that is going to, materially block any view of the south side of the 2nd story with the solar. Okay. Number 3 is we've chosen fairly high-end solar panels that are architectural that blend in pretty well.
There are no better solar panels on the market today that look better in terms of
Solar
don't-
panels
and power.
don't blend in by their very nature. They don't blend in. I've never seen any solar panels that blend in.
So relatively speaking, Megan, relatively speaking, we have done everything that we can to make them, as blended inable as possible. But I think you have definitely been in meetings where we talked about solar as being a core part of this whole building.
But it's a very visual board. The whole point is the impression from the street and the historical district where we are, and we never saw it. And you're now coming to the board with the application for it and showing it to us way after the fact, whether we talked about it or not. We all believe in solar panels. We all want this to be a zero energy house. I get it, but it's the visual part that we're responsible for, and I'm having trouble reconciling with the historical district and the feeling of the town.
I think if you walk down, anybody who has solar panels, you're gonna be able to see bits and pieces of them. We have a neighbor 2 doors down, 3 doors down, who has some solar panels. If you look at in a certain way, you'll see them at the end of the day. And that's just the reality of the world. I mentioned that there's this law in New York State that requires us to all get to net zero in the next 10 or 15 years. And you're gonna see solar panels in the historic district. That's just a fact.
Okay, so let's all agree to just appease the board's nature, which is to see the appearance of how they would be mounted and the manner to which they're mounted and the viewing angle from the street. And I think at least personally, if it's done with character and sensibly, I think personally I don't have an issue with that.
I think if we are able to just see some renderings with these things mounted, it will delay the concerns that the board has. Is it possible to have those prepared?
Hi, John. I could take care of renderings for you. That's not a problem.
I think would resolve this. Okay.
Apparently, we never saw renderings from the street or from anywhere with the solar panels in place.
No, I believe that was just submitted from the isometric and bird's eye perspective, as well as on the plans that were shown. So they were shown there. But I could provide additional resources.
When you come
show you
back-
exactly what they look like on the roof
When you
there.
come back, can it also include what is gonna happen in the backyard area? So we can see it all together.
Yeah, I'll get as many perspectives as I can on site. And if the structure itself, I'm not, familiar with the stage of construction that you're at. So if the structure was up, I'd be able to do that a little bit more. But other than that, I'm going to have to work off existing renderings that may be available for
So
control.
the home office is fully framed on the front. Everybody can drive by it and see it.
Yes. Yep.
And you will also see some steel beams that have been put in on the long bedroom wing, which is where most of the solar panels will be. It won't be framed though until May or June.
Understood. Okay.
But you can get a sense if you walk around here, and you're all welcome to go walk around and take a look, walk down the street and look at it from various perspectives.
All right. Thank you.
Can I add one thing? Hi, it's Alex. I'm also a part owner. Just that also from the street, there are a lot of trees, and you really, if you see solar panels, you'll see them sort of behind a lot of the trees.
Yeah, I'm convinced that, or I strongly believe that if you do show the renderings, it'll show there's not much to worry about.
It really
And
isn't.
if someone walks down the middle of February and comes to one of us saying, why'd you allow this? We can say, we actually took the rendering from this area, and considering that this is, has obviously benefits to them and to everyone else.
I think that's the easiest step, John.
We need complete renderings, really, is what it amounts to.
Yeah.
Understood. I could get you guys that material as the project progresses. Until it's framed and the structure's up, I can't give you a photorealistic rendering on there, but whatever I'm provided in the interim, I can overlay my solar modules to give you a better perspective of how that
Yeah,
looks.
if you could include the way it looks today, because obviously there's not much foliage. That'd be great. Thank you very much.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
We're going to move into a discussion on One Potato Road. Is there someone here for that? Could you state your name?
Yes, I'm Lori Besson. I'm here with BMA Architects representing the owners, One Sweet Potato LLC. So I'll look for the kind of context information quickly because I know we covered it.
Yeah, just a moment. Just to pass out the copy. It would be helpful to understand the concepts behind the understanding that there's
I
a
took that home.
fair amount of glazing that's going to be at a height of 45 feet. Is that correct?
That's correct. Now, as a reminder, this is an existing home, so it's a renovation, as well as an expansion. So when we get to the elevations, I can kind of talk you through our thought process.
Okay.
But the last conversation that we had regarding this project was mostly focused on the amount of glass. So our design work between then and now was also focused on that concern.
Okay.
So just as a reminder, One Potato Road is a 38,170 square foot lot. It's at the corner of Potato Road, with existing homes to the east and west. This is our material palette. It's intended to be natural cedar with a soft custom stain on it that mimics the natural weathering process. And in conjunction with that, we have either a matte black or like a dark bronze metal for the window frames and for some accent elements. Here's a context map. Our property is that blue parcel. The corner. The next image, so a little more context for you. Right, you can move on here. So the survey is existing conditions on the right, the proposed on the left. The yellow hat represents the additions. So the additions are happening on the landward side. We're in a FEMA 8E17 zone, and we'll be elevating the house 5.5 feet from where it is currently. I'm not sure if the board members had a chance to go visit the property, but the owners did permit access for anyone who wanted to see it in person. So I want to focus on these renderings for a couple of minutes. You can see there was concern previously that the volume that's sort of resting on top of the wood box, which is our main living space, was very glassy. And so we've introduced the language of vertical wood slats that cover 50% of the glass on the north elevation and really wrap both sides. So we reduced the glass pretty substantially on each elevation. And then on the rear as well, on the first floor in the primary suite, we increased the extent of solid walls. And at the second floor, in that zone that's kind of center in this rendering, we've reintroduced those vertical wood slats that again are covering 50% of the glazing in that zone.
That was page 8. Virginia?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the red outline indicates the location of the existing house. The red hatch indicates the variance that we were granted for pyramid. And then you can see that the entire house has been left at the 5.5 feet here. And again, that large wood slat area is 50% solid, 50% glass. And we can move on to A201. At this elevation, we eliminated the clerestory, so we cut back on quite a bit of stuff that way, and increased the amount of solid wall.
If I could clarify quickly, William, it looks like the top of the roof is, these are proposed, it will be 45'5", is that correct?
I believe that's correct.
And the pyramid log looks like it's raised 2 feet, isn't it? part of the FEMA?
Correct. So the maximum height of the building at the peak of the slope roof is 33 foot 5 inches above existing grade. And the low point is at 28 foot 8 above existing grade.
And John, the current code for a flat roof building is 27,
25.
25.
However, in the FEMA zone, that would be measured from base flood elevation. The maximum under our code would be 40 foot above mean sea level. When this home was constructed, town of Southampton would allow them to go to 42 feet above mean sea level, which is where the building currently sits. So they're actually 5 foot above our code, but only actually elevating 3 feet beyond where they are now.
But for the typical village there, which is 25
It
feet,
would be 25
Another
from base flood elevation,
almost
so
double.
17 plus 25, and you still have the 2 foot of freeboard.
right? So it's almost, just for the board to understand, it's almost double the current height of any other house. That would be currently in code.
So this again is the oceanfront elevation. You can see that center zone. We really gave up a lot of potential view by introducing those wood slats. But it was a challenge to figure out where we were able to cut back on glass. You know, obviously the owner purchased this property because of the magnificent oceanfront views. So that was a key consideration. Another thing I want to point out in looking at this elevation, where you see the kind of darker hatch on the left-hand side, that's actually an enclosed sunroom. So even though we have glass behind that screen, which we are counting towards our glass calculations for this elevation, it's tucked quite a bit back. So I think that the roof overhead is going to partially obstruct any visible light coming from that space. And then again, at this elevation, we omitted a clerestory and completely omitted all of the glazing on the side that was within a stairwell. So I think that these diagrams are helpful in illustrating the before and after in terms of our design moves and our effort to reduce the amount of glass. Overall, we went from 39% glazing to 28.7%. And no elevation has more than 50.5%. The southern elevation has 50.5% glazing, and everything else is substantially less than that.
So do I understand that the elevation of the building is now only 3 feet higher than it was before?
It's 5'6" higher than it is currently.
Okay.
And then I'm going to turn the presentation over to our landscape architects, LaGuardia Design, in just a moment. The last thing I wanted to point out, though, is that we did modify our glass specification. So our original spec had a visible light transmission of 79%. We've reduced that to 68% by switching to the SunGuard Super Neutral at 68%.
I just have a quick question for you, Lynn. The south elevation in the rendering, which is the most public view from the ocean. It's page 22. Just so everyone, I just want to let everyone understand that plan is correct. Page 22's rendering matches the elevation. Page 8202.
Okay.
So that box of glass is, I don't see the dimension it adds up, but it looks like roughly 10, 13, 15'6" by, I don't have the dimension across, but maybe 25 feet.
I don't have the dimensions in front of me either, but I
But in
think
terms
that's
of,
rough approximation.
so let's just say we can have a box from the beach that's 25 foot wide, that's 40, was it 43 feet high? 45 foot high, 44 foot 6. So you have a glass box that's 25 feet wide by, what did I say, how tall was that? 15 feet wide with, and the glass mullions are only 2.5 or 3 inches wide. in
We
between.
haven't selected the window system, they'll probably be a little bit larger than that.
So let's just say you're missing 6 inches of that. It's an incredibly large glass object. And I'm a modernist, and I think it's a very good design. I'm just thinking aloud at, you know, what it's like to walk by this house. And I don't have a dimension to the beach. Let's just look at the survey here. This is a very large open space that's very tall and very wide with no opacity to it.
There's no wall at all. It's a glass glowing box.
Correct, which is why we took measures to introduce the wood screening over a substantial part of it.
So the dimension to the,
But it's so far
It's too much.
past what we would ever consider. I think you would need to rethink it some more.
I'm just trying to get the, what is the dimension to the beach? I think the total is that,
Are you,
so the top of the beam, it looks like it's 100 feet. So double that, maybe it's 200 feet.
yeah, it's about 104 feet to the deck.
Mhm.
Page 5.
So it's 100 feet away. And the elevation of the deck to the elevation of the ocean, so the ocean is 0. What is the elevation of the deck?
Deck elevation is,
Zoom in.
it's 21.
Okay, so there's a 20, it's 20 feet high, and then you have the first floor, and then you have a 16-foot by. It's just a tremendous, I don't think there's anything like it on the beach that I know of.
With a mud park.
Is it?
What did you say?
I just think it's an unprecedented amount.
It's called the
It's an unprecedented amount of completely clear glass that's at the highest point. Just so the board is aware.
And I would also want to remind the board that this is a renovation, so we're really not doing much.
You're raising the lighthouse by quite a few feet.
That's correct, we're raising.
Well, that's the issue.
That's the issue, yeah.
Do you have the existing elevation on the south side that we could compare
I
it
don't
to?
have it here, we could include it in the future submission.
I think it's important to see the differences between. Did we have it, Pat, in an earlier submission?
Does FEMA requirements supersede the building pyramid? Meaning if they're required to raise, they can keep the house exactly as is?
No, they had to receive a variance for the height above our zoning code and for pyramid violation.
Okay.
I guess what I'm saying is we're in uncharted waters here, and I appreciate the amount of effort and reduction, but you're still at 50% of glass in the south. That's the most public view, and now it's higher and it's completely clear, and it's going to be, I'm sure, a beautiful curtain wall system, so there won't be much blocking it. So I don't know that we have precedent, and we should just be aware of that.
Thank you for
And I do appreciate the solar band glass, because I've seen it, it really is good.
If we were to further reduce the visual light transmission of the glass specs, would that be a compromise that we could make?
It's a starting point.
I mean, the
I
basic problem
really
is that
think-
you've got a glass box that you've elevated an entire floor. That's the basis of the problem.
And the
But I mean,
glass,
I would encourage you to think of it as a half floor relative to what's already there, though.
but it's also quite a commercial, I'm sure there'll be a commercial glass wall system. And you've even got a shop, a methodology, just for everyone's understanding, where the mountain lines are framed so that it's a zero line of exposure of opacity. In other words, they've set back the internal structure so that the glass can reach to the very last inch.
Mhm.
And theoretically, you could put lights in that space. So it's just again, a beautiful house. I think the renovation, you know, is very well crafted. And I think the solar ban is great. It's just, you know, it will be a beacon of light no matter how you slice it. And 50%, which is well over our typical, it's just a lot to ask. So I think we have to consider how to manage it.
So I think a lot more transparency, no pun intended, about what the severe changes are. And I think you need to conceive that they are severe in the board's mind, okay? And whatever context that you can more clearly convey that will be much more helpful and save you a lot of time.
Okay.
Okay, but to have certain renderings not even in the packet is not helpful. Okay. Any other comments?
Pat, can we see the nighttime renderings? I just want to make sure that it's
Relatively accurate.
just page 21,
23 is right there.
20, 23.
23, yeah.
I think we're gonna want to see a number of these. It's pretty, I mean, again, a beautiful object to see.
Yeah, I would want that glass too if I lived there, but, you know.
I mean, what you're really also seeing is a white ceiling. Is that like a level 5 white ceiling?
Potentially, we haven't got that.
Yeah,
yet.
so,
Yeah.
I mean, it's also, I mean, it'd be one thing if it was like a, you know, a cedars, you know, a Jaffe cedar ceiling, or if it was, but it's, so what you're shining light on is a white ceiling, and it looks like a white wall on both sides. It's just further emphasizing how bright this lantern will be, and it's you know, a lot of people go to the beach to get away from all of this kind of thing. And it's hard for me as monitors to go through this struggle, but I think in the end, it's a lot to ask.
There has to be some compromise for the public and for the community here, okay?
Maybe that's quite good. Or
That is an existing structure.
existing structure. What happens underneath there? What is that underneath there?
It's a pool deck. So there's a pre-existing pool and pool deck.
So it's much more in the foreground then.
Correct.
I see.
Yeah. Good. Do you have further questions to clarify? Okay,
Thank you.
all right, thank you very much. Motion to adjourn? Second? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Specific. You'd be lost again because your eyes are just in position. Next time walking, taking a lot.
It's another app.
You have not done that, because I have one.
Oh, yes.
Sort of, that's okay. My wife just throws them out, just take a stack of. Thanks.
That's why I said it. Okay, we'll revisit 569 Daniels. There were a couple of things that we had requested, which was one of which was glass. The use of low E, considering lights on the spiral staircase, some color suggestions, driveway and louvers. So what do you have for us?
Hello,
This one.
Good afternoon, Robert Fischetti, attorney for the applicant. I have, again, here with me Jason Grimba and Ian Ahrb. As the chairman mentioned, when we were first here last month, we sort of narrowed things down to focus on the exterior staircase and the glass percentage. We do feel, we did speak to the client and make some modifications. We did also accentuate, when we were here last time, some of the various mitigating factors that we have, including angle of sight shots, significant distances between many of the neighbors, and many of the angles to the neighbors are to, say, the rear of the neighbor's new house and things like that. And we've also made some landscaping changes. So I would pass it off to Jason Grimba so he can describe the architectural changes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jason Grimba, architect. If you look at the sheet, the G109 sheet, it summarizes the architectural related changes we did. On the rear facade, you'll see on the two-story portion that extends the furthest to the south. We eliminated one whole panel and transom on both levels. So that's equivalent to the top is 43.6 square feet, the bottom 49 square feet. So we eliminated those panels. Recessed back on the second floor, we made that slider smaller, approximately 6.5 square feet. On the primary bedroom on the upper right, we eliminated a full height window, fixed window and transom above. That was equivalent to 34 square feet. And then all the way to the back, second floor in the same elevation, we eliminated one whole lower panel, and that was 22 square feet. So we reduced from about 5.7 square feet on that rear facade to 42.1. We were at 47.8, 48. We went to 42 square feet. So originally that was 880. And the overall calculation went from 23.5 to 21.6. Part of which also want to kind of clarify too is that we were looking at it all together, and a lot of the glass that's on the first floor is really, recessed back from the furthest most covered porch and the two-story addition, on the south and west side. So a lot of the glass that's received there from the living space does recess back further. And so that's why I kind of went after more glass kind of in our last meeting. There was some attention brought to second-story glass. And I thought those two in particular, that southern west two-story portion coming forward, that's why I really went after those large portions of glass there. And then the primary bedroom on that upper right portion. I would took out that corner window, which faces south and west. I just repeat from the last meeting, the exposures for the site, I tried to clearly outline those detailed sheets where we have the concrete wall from the Harry Sisters Architectural House Architects. We have a garage and service exposure immediately to the south. And then to our east is a very similar condition, the garage and service equipment to the side. So I feel that the reduction of 155 square feet and our, the exposures that we have in adjacent properties, is meaningful and a meaningful adjustment to what you guys, had suggested. My clients were open to that, and we did that, because like I said, I always try to say, I respect your guys' opinion and your, your insight and feedback on the projects. We're also going to do 100% LED lighting on the interior, and that's something when I looked into researching homes where they reference visual light transmission and things like that. A lot of criteria in other states, they require 100% LED lighting on interiors. So we're also proposing to do 100% LED lighting. On these are the new renderings. If you circle around the back, LaGuardia has adjusted the planting and the tree on the side of the spiral. So we're basically engulfing that whole spiral with the tree with a tree and planting structure, adjacent to that. In terms of the driveway, Ian had a meeting with John, and the driveway as planned is, conforming and acceptable in terms of code. So we're using the driveway as it was shown previously. You had mentioned in your proposal about potentially considering a film applicant. I did a bunch of research in the window manufacturers that we were considering. It just might be for your reference also, buttons in the kindest way. When you apply film to a window, it voids the warranty. So I don't know what it means in terms of your purview, but as future, I think what architects and designers need to do is they actually have to have treated glass, not film applied to glass, but they void the warranty. So like Nick mentioned earlier, like the solar bond product is a really good product. It adds, if I was to add that product to this house, which I think, like I said, is a good product, it's about a 10 to 15% upcharge. So it's like a $60,000 or $70,000 cost ramification to my client. So ideally, you guys like it how it is, and see that I made an honest gesture to remove glass from the rear facade. And that's good, because it starts to become a financial decision at a certain point for my client as well. Oh, and just to reiterate, we talked about height earlier, came up in the previous project. We're at 22 feet tall, right? Because we have a glass railing we have that roof deck. So the glass railing includes that 25-foot maximum. So we're 22 feet to the top of the roof, and then there's on the southwest corner, there's that roof deck. So the house is super low to the property. In terms of adjacent homes in the area, we're at 22 feet perceived height to the top of the roof. Very limited exposure risk to the adjacent properties.
Can you tell us on the second floor how far out these eaves come? And how far over the window are they?
14 inches.
14 inches. Thank you.
There are some of these that are a little shy on explaining that roof railing.
Tom, could you speak
I
up?
think it's because it's a glass railing with a concealed shoe. So ideally,
Uh-huh.
I was trying to make it completely disappear. So
Well, it
I
doesn't
don't
show
mean-
up.
yeah, I don't mean it to be a joke, but that's completely the intent. There's no shoe, there's no railing. It's just a glass guard. That's
There's
it.
no posts.
No, that's it. So the structure is within the roof deck.
We've sometimes had, someone who wanted to have more windows and they go to say, I live on nothing but candlelight, trust me, which is great, but then someone else sort of moves in. And I'm getting back to that spiral staircase and the roof deck on top of it, where these people's intentions might be able to have the unlit death trap of an unlit one and no usable functional materials, chairs, tables, heat lamps on the roof. But there's really no use to it unless some new owner does use it for
The
that.
projects I've done, well, first of all, if you change any electrical, you have to get a building permit, right? You have to get an electrical, permit that. I'm not saying people won't do it illegally, but that's required by any jurisdiction. And I would say the last 2 or 3 I've done of these, I find interior designers are now using these lanterns, these LED kind of lanterns.
Oh, yeah,
It's
yeah.
done that way, not with, you see my electric plans, I don't have any plans to put any electrical on the roof whatsoever.
But there is allowed to be furniture up there, or you're saying
Yeah,
there?
no, that's a.
Yeah.
What
intended
is
to be
the
like a city
intended
or-
use of this as far as the current owner is concerned?
The idea is to see sunsets, like a sunset deck. There's a beautiful sunset. that we're going to.
And cocktails?
Nice. Sounds good. Let's do it. Yeah. But yeah, mostly now, I'd say, like I said, the last 2 or 3, they're using these kind of LED lamps that come in, come and go. They're mostly disposable.
Further thoughts? Hypothetically, what keeps the furniture from falling off the roof?
The job I'm doing on Deerfield Road in Watermill is tie downs, actually they're tie downs. The couches and things are kind of anchored to the roof deck.
Jason, I'm not seeing the spiral staircase in any of the renderings, other than like a tiny little bit of.
Because of trees.
Because we put that huge tree that you requested from the last meeting.
Come on. No, but I would like to see it though.
It's in every rendering. It's in every rendering. Look at the overhead 3D view. There it is right here.
Page 8.
We did exactly what you asked. Yeah, there's a huge tree in the
But not the nighttime. I guess I just imagine if you're gonna see a,
I did not take it out of any of the renderings.
if you are gonna see it on, you know, a dusk setting that becomes night, you're gonna have to light the stair up, right, just for safety. When you mean it's nighttime, so you have to get down the stair, so it has to be lit. And I don't know how you're gonna do that without lighting it. And I'm not seeing it lit, so.
But you are gonna like that part, right, the stairs? You have to light a
Is
stair.
there a code that I have to physically like that? That's not.
Ask Sean, ask your insurance provider.
I really have to dig into it, but from my knowledge, you have to light up where you go in and out of the house, but say you have a staircase that's going down a hill to your garage. You don't, by
no.
law, have to
No.
have footlights in that staircase.
But
You
it
can
is-
argue that that's service.
so he has an invisible railing that goes around the deck with a spiral staircase with no light on it. Right, unless each person carries their own lantern, there's no way of not falling over the deck or, right, you wouldn't see it.
I would say it's an unsafe condition, but I don't know that it's against code.
Mhm.
But you have to light the first step area on the left.
I'll tell you what I'll do. I will absolutely take a look into the lighting requirements for the staircase. And I will get back to you early next week.
But I would just imagine you'd want to be able to light it, because you want to use it, and like, my father was here over the weekend, he's 9 years old. He can make the stairs, but he wouldn't go up there.
I understand. I understand.
Excuse me, Tom. A question from the last application. The person did not speak up.
Yeah.
Would you entertain that question now at this point,
After this presentation, yeah.
after this presentation?
Say that again, Pat.
We have somebody on Zoom that would like to ask a question about one potato. Okay, and they're asking to speak, but we'll wait till this
Yeah,
presentation
after
is
this
finished,
open, yeah,
and we'll come back to it.
okay.
I guess I would say this, like, and I talked about this last meeting, you know, I've been coming to these meetings a long time at this point now. I truly respect what you guys say, so maybe it's inherent in me not to put lights where you don't necessarily need them in theory. So saying, you know, I was trying to keep it impact to the adjacent properties at nighttime as little as possible. Can I guarantee somebody's gonna come up or up or down at night?
It seems like you had pitched roofs and then someone discovered, oh, the flat roof, you get to use the entire top floor without having, you know.
Yeah, we're not.
And then
I could
so-
have, and my client isn't, it's just a small corner. It's a
But then someone builds a flat roof and they're like, oh, I've won that. Now let's see if I can
I would
colonize
just
the roof.
imagine that, even, let's say they sold this in the next 3 years, someone's gonna put some lights up on that thing, and they're gonna put it on the roof deck.
Yeah,
You
I would
gotta walk
imagine
around.
as close knit community you guys are, someone would call John and say, hey, something's going on here. There's lights down this roof that was never approved.
And that means their C of O's gone until they sell the house and they get rid of the
Provisions in place to
lights.
protect exactly.
Or nothing happens.
Yeah.
And everyone has to deal with it.
It's a
I'm just saying,
pretty-
I'd like to see lights on it, because I'm not even saying it's a bad thing, it just should look the way it will end up being built.
Aren't there small lights that you could embed in the steps that are not
You can
visible
put it in the rail.
worldwide.
You can put it in the rail, that would be an easy way to do it.
Yeah, I would say if there's something you.
Under the risers, but then you have a
I'm
light.
sensitive to that, like I said, if you guys are
Percent it would
suggesting,
affect-
if you have a light that you think would be acceptable, then
Yeah, that's all.
I would be open to adding it. I was just trying to keep it as minimal as possible.
Yeah.
Right, but I also think it exposes this board and the village municipality if there's some sort of an incident and they come back and say, this was just pure common sense. It might not be in our code, but we're coming after you because so-and-so fell down the stairs and broke their neck and, you know, we're
Coming
losing.
after John.
Well, we have municipal to stop it in that case, it's all right.
Is it, but are there any other roof decks in Saginaw?
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Many,
There are.
way too many.
But there was one with a party and they ended up bleeding pink flamingos and big tropical trees and.
Is that Crestview?
So that's possible. I mean, we don't know. They rent this for the summer.
It's even dodgy from up there.
Yeah.
This is such
John?
speculation.
Like, hate to keep harping on cocktails, but people go up there at sunset and drink free margaritas and then try to go down unlit steps, doesn't, in the dark.
You can die walking at a front door, right?
Of course
When
you
the-
can.
So it's-
Unfortunately, after each margarita, it's around a 200-foot walk downstairs around the entire place to the kitchen.
Oh,
It won't
volunteer.
hurt as much.
I'm a volunteer fireman of 28 years. I've seen people get hurt within this much on the first floor, you know, getting out of your car, this is, anything can happen in anyone's home.
Well, that's true, but you try to minimize the likelihood.
I mean, it's gonna look like a roller coaster if you light something. Just,
That's my whole point. Is
It's
that I like to see it lit up.
Centre George Pompidou.
Yeah, or you could light the tree and that would probably.
You could make it a Christmas
I don't
thing,
think we can.
you know.
No,
If
that's
you lit
against
the top of the tree
Not like a
down.
tree.
They painted it with kid.
It would look like a wolf.
Down.
No higher than 15
I I do it next to night, right?
No higher than 15 feet.
Oh, is that right? Okay, well,
All right,
I'd like to see that first one and see.
Okay, so where are we?
for the experience of doing our due diligence, is it possible to show us what that would look like?
I would say if you guys are open to it, because I feel like I've taken good measures to kind of get us to where we are. If I was allowed to kind of take a break and double check the code and speak to, about that, because I'm all completely open, you know, to adding lights. It seems like it's more of a code thing, you guys are uncomfortable, I get it. But if it's code conforming, it's code conforming, so I feel like I shouldn't be
Required.
not approved through the board for doing something that's code required. But I'm open to it. I get it. Safety is important to me. But I would say if I was to then add lighting, I would come back to the board for a separate approval for that with renderings and things like that.
Okay. So, anything more?
I have nothing more unless someone else. has something.
And you're going on the, thank you. So we were thinking adjourned?
Yeah. Can I just ask, is it possible to approve it subject to lighting being brought back before you for approval? In the sense that we all agree that the staircase would be there and we would be adding lighting, and then the design and location and spacing of the lighting and everything else would be still approved by the board?
I'm gonna ask John for his opinion on that.
Considering how far out stringing lights could be from this point in time, yeah, I really don't see an issue.
But the design of the stair may be affected in what we're discussing. So as long as
I
we
think the
can.
worst
eliminate
case
the
scenario, like
stair.
you're saying, is you would run the lighting under the handrail or you put it in the treads. So I don't think the design wouldn't change. I would want to keep it as minimal as
I
possible.
would just say though, as for the notes, that the stair and its lighting are not part of this approval. That's just how I.
All right, okay. Are you comfortable with that? Yeah. Okay. All right, so,
So just the stair and the lighting. and the-
Yeah.
So not included, but we all understand we'll be coming back to get, okay.
okay.
for that one part.
So
But
there's
John, not the deck, right? Like, there's no, he has an invisible rail up there. There's no requirement for light on the roof deck.
Even on a flat roof where you have no handrails, right, and you have mechanical equipment on the roof, there's not a requirement for lights on the roof with no handrails, right? So
We're doing a project up in Montauk and we have 5 roof decks. And we have a client that's requested fairly significant light so they can see and walk around safely, and they have grandchildren and, so I think another person who either rented or bought this could easily add lights, and it might be an issue, so.
just get a permit for that as well, right? So, it's in such a visible spot, so I think if there was lights all of a sudden. Like I said,
But that's sort of what we're
such a
saying.
close community.
But almost they're gonna have to be lights. It's
Yeah.
harder, you can't just go take them down. It's a long process, and only seeing a rendering with the lights, can you sort of see the staircase as a spectacle it will be.
Yes, right, not to be that.
Okay, all right. So with that particular clarity in the motion, would there be support to approve? Okay. All those in favor of that? Did we actually get somebody to make a motion? Sorry. Okay.
Anthony just.
Anthony, second?
I'll second,
Okay.
with
Anthony?
that caveat.
Yeah, okay. All those in favor? Aye. Those
Thank you
opposed?
everyone for your time, I
Okay.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Very much.
Can I just ask one technical thing for the staircase? Should we present a new application or would it be a modification to this application?
John would be able.
We'll just continue it over.
Continue it on this one? Yeah, okay, all right, thank you.
We're going to step back for one question on Pickens Road.
No, AAS,
I'm sorry?
AAS is what it's under in the, his name.
Yes. Could I ask a question on Potato Road, or do you want to wait till the board resumes?
This might be for John.
I'm sorry.
He's gonna ask a question, just,
Yeah, I'm a neighbor living to the other side of Potato Road, and I just wanted to understand, it's hard to hear the full proceedings. Did I hear correctly that there's been a variance granted to allow the height of this building to essentially be raised by over 6 feet?
It will, yes. And small pyramid violation as well was granted.
And that's a ZBA, what the ZBA did.
Okay, because I mean, this height increase is obviously going to restrict, my view of the ocean. And I just want to understand whether, why that variance would have been given. But if I'm too late, then, let me know.
The variance was granted so the house can be made FEMA compliant. They're undertaking a renovation that triggers a clause in FEMA called the substantial addition renovation clause, which in order to do that level of work, they have to make the structure FEMA compliant.
So you're saying the house has to be raised by 6 feet?
Yes, they have, it's the base flood elevation of 17. 17 is the elevation. It's not exactly sea level, but it's close. And you have to be 2 feet above that for something called freeboard. So you're actually starting the bottom of the first framing member at elevation 19, and you go up from there. This is an existing structure, so they're taking the structure as it exists now and elevating it to make FEMA's base flood of 17 plus the 2 foot of freeboard.
Could you also introduce yourself, please?
Yes, I live at number 549 Daniels. 549 Daniels,
And your name?
Samson.
Thank you.
It's hard.
Like I said, just the concern I have is that it's going to, block my view of the ocean by, in a way that is not helpful. But if you're saying that the variance has been granted and that this is legally required, I think I heard the committee indicate various other concerns with the design of the house, but I was really just focusing on the height.
The height variance was granted several months ago by our board.
Understood. Okay, thanks for answering my question. Appreciate it.
Very good. Okay.
Just bring to light the importance of how high that light goes.
It's also the only one that was granted, two others, right?
Three. Yeah.
Parsley building.
I didn't really understand why, to be honest, when I read those
Yes.
variants.
Because they were doing more by choice, it seemed.
They weren't doing any renovation, they just wanted to bring the house up.
They just wanted to meet FEMA code.
Mhm.
Well, that's a legitimate reason.
You'd have to speak to Elliot and the rest of the board.
Yes.
Okay, let's continue. Do we have somebody for 101? Are they on? Okay. Very good. Can we continue with that? 101 Hedges? Is someone online for that application?
Steve Barsley, for Barsley. Steve Solomon.
Okay.
He's there. We're asking him to unmute.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me?
We hear you now. Could you also
Oh.
put your video on? There you go.
I'm here.
How you doing?
Okay, fine, thank you.
Go ahead. Steve?
Yes, hi.
Yes, hi. Go ahead with your proposal.
Okay, so I think we're just proposing, Raymond Renault, who's the architect, I can't make it, so I'm just filling in today, but my client would like to change the initial elevation, removing the brick facade and just continuing that all to shingle. We're having some budgetary concerns here, so that's going to help us, manage that to some degree. I did look yesterday. Oh, yes. I did go down yesterday through the neighborhood just to make sure, and really the entire neighborhood is composed of shingle houses. There's relatively no brick anyway, so I don't think we would be interfering with the neighborhood by continuing it to make it all shingle. And that's basically what we like to do. Did Raymond send you an elevation, a rendering?
Yeah, it's on the screen if you.
Yeah, that's not the, he did a color one. He should have sent you, but, or maybe it's there. Yeah, perhaps it's there.
Zoom into the.
So we just want to remove the brick on the lower half of the house and just continue the shingle all the way down. That's it.
Old plan to new plan and a couple different perspectives would be helpful.
I mean, we prefer shingle to brick, right?
Right.
So I don't think, that's all he's asking.
Yeah, that's it.
Steve, what kind of shingles are you proposing? Are these like royals or what are they?
It's just to see the shingle, the exact shingle that was approved initially. I think it's a weathered stain, a weathered gray look. Just the same shingle, just continue. So no separation.
A white shingle or a red shingle?
Oh, I think, well, it's a stained, it's already the color that we're supposed to expect it. It's not going to fade or anything. I think that was submitted on the beginning application.
I think it says red cedar.
It might be red, but it's a stained shingle to simulate it as being weathered. And that was, I believe, initially approved for the top half. And we'd just like to continue it on the lower half.
Yeah, I don't understand it. So it's a stained shingle.
Stained to match the upper?
But the renderings don't look stained. The renderings look
Like a bleach.
like almost like a natural to weather.
Well, that's what it's going to look like. I think Raymond had handed in apparently a sample. It's a pretty standard. It would look very much as if it was yellow cedar when it oxidizes and turns that gray look. Pretty much that. Nothing unusual. But we just want to eliminate the brick, the lower half of the house, and just continue the whole house as shingle, which would conform pretty much to the entire neighborhood.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Can you share one large picture from like the driveway view so we can sort of see what we'd see from the street?
I think we could do that for a moment.
They all just seem to be from an angle. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Straight up.
The middle left picture?
Yeah.
Very low res.
You see that?
Thank you. It's just your,
Does that
no,
help or no?
we're working on it. Wait 1 second.
Okay.
Find the PDF that might be able to bring it up. better.
No, we could just zoom into this, Adam. Adam?
Yeah.
You could just zoom into one of these.
Yeah, the resolution is pretty low.
That's the one on the upper left, yeah, that one.
That's it.
Yeah.
Now that's with the brick, and then the picture below it.
Oh, is that showing the brick there? You know what, I can't really see.
And which one do you want? The brick or the not brick?
Not brick. Brick.
We want to take,
Just go down the page.
There we go.
So that's what we're aiming towards.
can you see this? You want to take the brick away and just add shingle and just make it shingle. It's very traditional looking that way. There's no big, thing that happens with doing that.
All right.
And where's the front door?
On the east side.
On Fairfield.
On Fairfield from the east.
We're not changing anything else that was proposed. The construction still remains the same. Proposed driveway, everything. All we're looking to do is take away the brick and add shingle. And so it'll basically be an all shingle house.
Very good.
And we're going to leave the chimneys as brick, so that'll have that more traditional look to it also.
Right. Very good. Any questions? Okay, motion to approve.
I'll make it.
Thank you, Tony and Emily. Very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank everyone. Have a nice day.
Yeah. Like how it was like the other meetings.
Do you have the last application that got signed? Oh,
It's here for,
were you gonna put anything on there? Are you gonna write it out?
Excludes the staircase
okay.
or whatever
Yeah.
wording is correct.
In mind? Thank you. So tax door.
Hold on a minute, we get the next one.
Can't sit back there at all.
Join the party.
Okay.
Like the flag should be bigger, right?
Hey, come on.
Yes. It was all the way up here. Yeah, it's post office.
Okay.
Afternoon, board. Thanks again for your time. Your consideration. We've proposed a few refinements that we've been thinking about over since the last few months, since the last application. Mostly to more closely reflect the history of the building and Sagaponic's unique agricultural vernacular that really distinguishes it from all the neighborhood lodges. Frank submitted a sort of summary of the list, which I can read through. like in terms of the different elements that we're.
Okay, that would be fine. I don't know if we got that one. We just have some rendering.
Oh.
Oh, you're gonna take us through it.
We'll talk through them. The first item is the exterior stair to the basement is flipped to descend from west to east. That was a sort of initial consideration. So that's doesn't really affect sort of visuals on the outside of the building. The south side open deck is extended wrap around the back side, southwest corner of the existing building. So there's a rendering that shows
It's on this side.
south side. There you go.
Wait, you had it back.
So the deck extends a little bit around there to make a little safer passage for.
So it's a walkway, not for chairs or anything.
There's a double hung window added at the rear of the existing building in the southwest corner, in the same location where the current one exists. So on the last application, we did not have that.
The one white?
In the white elevation. So we've added that one back in. So again, that's part of sort of, retaining as much of the history. So we reshuffled the interior layout to get that window back in. Obviously, as much sun and sort of relationship with the neighborhood is a very important part of this. Let's see, railing and handrail at the ramp on the north side of the building was changed to be industrial bronze pipe handrail loop of the painted tube steel railing with wire mesh panels. So, yeah, so that's wood instead of the wire mesh, which was a comment last time, which we so that goes to a natural material instead. Design the bay windows. So at the front of the building, we've changed the, basically the design of the porch is the same, except for the ceiling inside the porch. In the last rendition, actually had ceiling boards inside. That actually, because the current front windows for the store actually are higher than that porch inside, we're losing those clerestories, which are kind of cool. And they're historical. I think they're very important for the building. So by getting rid of the ceiling inside that porch and having some open beams inside there, that allowed the actual facade behind that porch on the building itself, that facade to be full height to get those clerestories back in, which we feel is important. Let's see, the one-story addition on the back, not really an addition, but sort of replacement of the current sort of amalgam of stuff. So in the last rendition, that sort of central structure there was shingles as well. And the idea is actually to sort of speak a bit more and be a bit more sort of vernacular for the local architecture. So a bit more agricultural, which is, I think, sort of what makes Sagaponic unique compared to the other villages. So that building sort of stands a bit more kind of as a more agricultural piece. Picking up a lot of the barns. So I visit a lot of barns and things in the area here that seem to have quite a bit of that board siding. What seems to be unique in the neighborhood is most of the barns seem to be without battens. So sort of that clean board. So this is something that picks up more of the local barn approach. And a little less, sort of residential. The two-story is vertical shiplap siding. So that's a shiplap we're talking about, natural finish in lieu of painted cedar shingles. Covered porch is exposed roof rafters, which I described before with beadboard ceiling up above inside instead of the flat headboard or beadboard ceiling. So that was what I was describing before, is raising up inside that porch, which allows for the clerestory windows. So instead of being a low ceiling, cutting the windows off, actually open the thing up to get those windows back in. And then the rear blackened steel frame and glass bifold door. So around, again, sorry, I keep flipping back. Yep, on the back of the building. So that has been changed. It's still the same materials, the same color, and sort of the same general idea, except instead of it being sort of a large piece that has to sort of fold open, it's now been split so that there's sort of a clerestory, which harkens a little bit to the front elevation. But also allows those two doors to be more of a sort of a man door thing instead of actually having to sort of open the whole facade up and make this sort of large opening. So that makes it.
Are there 3 windows part of the operational part of it, or are they fixed?
They were considering actually making that sort of open all the way. Right now, the idea is those are fixed, the sides fixed, and the 2 centerpieces can open together.
Okay.
So as a facade, it still sort of reads as, fairly, a fair bit of sort of visual flow.
Yeah.
But instead of having the whole thing kind of having that.
Yeah, the nano walls are frustrating.
Yeah. And in this environment, have probably a 5-year lifespan before replacing all the bearings and everything else. That also allows for screens and things like that. So if the doors do, if they are open in the summer, a big part of what we're trying to do is sort of minimize sort of the energy consumption for the building as well, and having screens in this sort of many places as possible also gets more back to the spirit of the general store.
What is the wheel on the top, the agriculturally referenced?
Bring it upstairs.
Yeah, mostly, but yeah, mostly just a
It's a hay pulley.
yeah, it's a stone piece. It's
Loading
not
that
really
up.
for anything. It's
Yeah.
functional.
That's
It would
heritage.
take hay up into the attic historically.
Yes. So that building inside, open space, so a 1.5-story open space, more of a sort of, more of a barn feeling in the back. Is kind of what's sort of being considered right now. Yeah. So that's trying to refine it more to the sort of the history and the local vernacular.
What did this slatted in the front of the building behind the sign? Was that slatted before or was it solid?
I think that was slatted before as well.
I don't remember that design.
Let's see, maybe, I think we've got some older, do you have the older renderings?
We have them here.
Is it possible to look at the angle of the downspouts and the fact that sometimes they are a little bit more obtrusive perhaps than they need to be?
I think what he's saying is, if you go to that view, if you were to put that leader as an internal leader in the column, there's such nice detailing that it's kind of distracting from.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
And then for some reason, the leader on the north side is not on the corner board, but the one on the south is on the corner board.
Yeah, we sort of debated whether that goes in the front or if it goes on the side, which would sort of be less intrusive. Or if that one just feeds to the porch. So if it goes inside that column will probably get a little bigger, just sort of looking at the size of the column, the size of the leader coming off of there. So if the leader on the right, on the white elevation, just the right of post office window, if that were eliminated and that actually fed onto the porch roof. So if that led on the porch roof, maybe we can get rid of that. But then there's that additional area and the porch that would be coming through that porch post leader. Which may increase the size of the post in order to sort of get, because obviously that's a structural piece that's in clad. But to run, it's certainly possible to have, a round post inside that's hollow that a leader could be running through, which would be kind of a sexy detail, and clean that up. But it may mean that post would probably grow a little bit to accommodate that. Is that something that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously all this is kind of a.
I think that would be nice.
I think it's gonna keep flowing if it's a snow and ice.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's two of them. Because
So both of
right now
these
that-
would be internal and here beneath that or post, right?
Perhaps.
Yeah, I think this may have been on the last, are they on the last application? I feel like they were.
No, the skirting was in the vertical skirting on the porch.
Mhm.
What's the reason for the vertical That's what you're talking about, the slats on the roof.
Yeah, I don't know if skirting is the right word, but
Okay.
it looks like skirting.
Oh,
Is it
that's-
just a design element or there's a function?
That's mostly a design element. There is a bit of function that is that the morning sun coming in, it was to kind of minimize some of the sun load coming in, which was trying to use older techniques to reduce some of the energy consumption of the building, but still have it feel open and welcoming to the street.
That's where I wish you could simplify it though, the building, 'cause it's so clean when you didn't have them. Right, so I feel like it takes attention.
It's almost like a Victorian.
Victorian, yeah, just think
or like Queen Anne style or something.
But 1890 was it?
I don't know.
It's like a revival.
Everything else is
Depends
colonial.
on who was queen.
I mean, everything else is so colonial and simple.
Some of the other elements on the front of the building are kind of interesting. The cornice pieces or the little corner brackets that are at the top of those posts are actually the brackets that are on the building now. I didn't notice them for first couple of months. They're actually tucked up in underneath the eaves as part of the eave brackets. Kind of cool.
It's nice. I think the slatting takes away from those details. I appreciate the energy decision, so I think visually it's just distracting.
So in terms of, so maybe we do is we sort of go through each one of the sort of things. Everything else that we're talking about sounds like it's probably okay for the most part.
Yeah.
And then the leaders, I love the idea of sort of being able to hide all that kind of stuff. Sometimes it's kind of part of what buildings are around here. And it's kind of one of the elements. Yeah, or as opposed to just sort of hiding it or tucking it in somewhere. Do you guys have a
I don't need to hide
one way or
it.
the other?
I don't need to hide it. I do feel like the one that is next to the US Postal Service sign could maybe be on the corner so it lines up with the gray trim that way, but I don't,
I think it's because the leader has such a long elbow because it's avoiding the bracket below. If you look at, can you zoom in on the other elevation?
You're talking about the porch.
Yeah, if you zoom into that corner, take a look at, because of the, whatever that is, a buttress. The elbow for the leader starts quite early and then it goes quite high. So to me, that's just a little longer than it would.
The arm sort of sticks out quite a bit.
Do the opposite.
So
But
I
yeah,
think
and so
you
the
can-
awkward just makes it more authentic of a historical.
Even make it longer, right? Just,
Yeah.
you could swing on it if you're a kid, maybe. The other thing I was just thinking is it'd be quite dark under there. If you go back to the other elevation of the front facade path. I'm working on the original farming house right now, big renovation. And it was his last house, but everything was really, really long, exposed.
Big overhangs.
But cover overhangs, and as a result, it was very dark inside. I'm just wondering if you would consider, and I don't know if the board agrees with me, but some kind of opening that, I don't know, I guess it would be like a skylight, but not a skylight, over the front door to allow light to kind of shine on that door. So I don't think you'd see it really, but it would really give you a nice, like I know all my kids have gone to the school and they all have these photographs of themselves on Halloween right in front of that door. And I was thinking those photographs would now be, have to be hit with a flash rather than.
Yeah. We hadn't gone down that path because it didn't seem like something that was, we hadn't seen a precedent or even sort of a historical sort of vernacular.
I mean,
language that would.
My daughter's 21, but there's, 4 years of her in front of that door and there's lots of light on her.
I just don't love skylights.
Yeah, I mean, so what we ended up doing is we created an opening in the roof that's shingled and then cedar line inside. And you're not seeing the glass at all because it's all hidden within it's not like a Bauhaus skylight, it's a custom thing. But it would allow for that to glow, that front door. I mean, this is very, glass, kind of detailed stuff, but it would be wonderful to have it have light into the front door also if you're inside.
There's a great deal of effort keeping that porch, trying to come up with proportions for the porch and keep that porch as high as possible. And of course, the irony is we're having this conversation about light, and a lot of what we've sort of done is, that sort of vertical latticing, sort of actually trying to minimize sun from certain hours that do come in and really do sort of add to the load. So having that as high as possible, and then raising the ceiling inside so that we can get the clerestories back in. What we hadn't gone as far as cutting holes in the porch, we're putting skylights and things like that in.
Even, would be the prettiest thing, but a dormer, low dormer in the center, this would allow sunlight in while not being a skylight, which would be sort of anachronistic.
You can also just put lights in the ceiling.
It's not gonna be the same.
Just saying. I wouldn't.
We have been looking at old, old sort of 1890s schoolhouse lights and things like that, the old barn lights that, and old store lights. It was actually just out in Pennsylvania where there are quite a few places that still have these things that are from the old stables and old general stores out there. So,
Is Old Good Things still down in Scranton?
huh?
Is Old Good Things still down in Scranton, Pennsylvania?
Oh, I don't know. I was just outside Pittsburgh.
Oh, they're a good resource too.
Okay.
They had one on 14th Street, right?
Yeah.
For a while.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Qualified as a, like a religious group to avoid taxes. Now they're hard to find as a
But yeah,
result.
they would go to the barns and then bring it all down on 14th Street and have beams laying on the floor, church pews from.
I think I remember those guys. I was down in that neighborhood living there in the city in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, right near Union Square. Near the old Union Square Cafe.
Heartland Brewery and all that stuff.
Yeah. The day and night club turning into Petco.
Back when Clever Kayak was still there, people were like, what is this?
Yeah, clever foldable boats.
Yeah.
My stepdad fell for one.
So how should we proceed?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I assume that opening in the spring of 23 is not happening. When are you starting?
Well, we've got a government entity who is hopefully doing their best to participate, but they're sort of dragging their feet. That's very much don't want to do anything that sort of gets the post office upset in any way, and we feel it is a very generous offer. Have them sort of play along, as we say. So there's that.
Am I allowed to ask what Poland is?
Poland.
What do they know?
We're actually not sure. It's
They changed personnel, right, and then decided they didn't like the post office.
yeah. So of course, they're the sort of primary tenant we really love having there. They're the first ones I reached out to, and we had a couple of great folks that came through and worked out a couple of plans that they really seemed to like. And then after 6 months or something like that, those folks got reassigned to something else. And some new folks came in and decided to start all over again. And it was a little different sort of take on things, which is been a little frustrating.
So they have to approve the plans as well?
Post office does.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah,
They can prevent the processes somehow being.
They can threaten to move the post office.
yeah, which was something they talked about, I guess, about 15 years ago or something like that. And that's obviously really like I said, right from the beginning, the primary interest is keeping the post office in the village, keeping that in the building, keeping the service uninterrupted, and when we're done, have a better space.
It's shocking. It's exactly the same building. I don't understand what the problem is.
Yeah, and that's actually
Really
it's more
annoying.
square footage.
Really annoying.
And US
bigger
Postal
storage
System
is-
is like a Swiss watch these days, so it's not like this.
But I think there are folks in the organization that see the value of what we're proposing, and hopefully they
So inching forward.
And wait, did you guys decide on a temporary location for the postal service? You saw?
Yeah, so we have arrangements basically around the corner. Pretty much kind of, as we say in this neighborhood, sort of 1 block away.
Okay.
And we've got arrangements for a temporary facility that's actually larger than what they have right now.
That you're gonna build?
That we would rent.
That we know will
Yeah, yeah.
like a little wide or something.
I see.
Yeah, so, like one of the sort of temporary real estate office for doctors or like a, school extension.
Yeah.
Kind of thing like that. And that, one of the reasons for doing something like that is that ends up sort of meeting all the standards and the ADA requirements and things like that. Yeah, and then work through all those things. Yeah, that's sort of an interesting thing as well. The next conversation after sort of going through the plan was, okay, do you guys have temporary quarters and things like that? Oh, yeah. No idea where any of these things are. Nobody can find them. So, well, I'll tell you what, that's a pretty easy thing. We can solve that. We'll provide that. We'll provide. So
So Karen won't be retired by the time this all gets resolved.
Yeah. Hope she recovers from her.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Do you want us to make any? Are we making a formal approval on
I don't love the lattice.
what we're moving forward?
Sorry.
I think we're making a formal approval with all of your changes. And as long as you're agreeing to it, I think we
The leaders.
the leaders and board, are we saying that we don't want or have question with the small skirting?
I do. Sorry, I can't.
I'm not invited.
Yeah, as we've gone through this, the character of the building has changed significantly from what I grew up with, let's say, all right? I mean, there didn't used to be a ramp on the north side of the building at all when I was little. So it's losing its historical nature in my mind with these trim outs and so forth. But that's just where I'm at.
What was the reason for the lattice again?
To keep the sun, so that the air conditioning doesn't have to run harder in the late afternoon sun. Then it gets hot in here.
What is it?
Morning sun, I think.
Morning and midday on the side.
Sorry,
Yeah. So that was one of the functional sides of it.
I mean, I don't want it. It's either way for me. I'm not voting either way.
I don't really care one way or the other. I mean, I would prefer not a lattice, but I don't feel strongly enough about it to project.
Guys?
Well, just in the vote there, it's all neutral, and you're neutral. If you prefer not, then just say no. Right, you prefer not.
Megan strongly prefers not.
Right, you prefer not, you don't care.
Yeah.
Right, so
I don't really care.
2 against and 3 for, so it's approved.
All right.
I just think it adds a busyness to the front, which is
It's okay.
not.
I feel like if you're trying to make it look like what it used to look like, and if that wasn't there before, then why would you have it on there?
Good point, but the whole huge extended porch wasn't on there before either.
Yeah, I just
Okay.
think you should keep it simple and let these nice details shine.
If that was removed, I think it would look pretty unsubstantial though.
And too tall.
Yeah.
That's the issue I have with it.
Okay.
Okay, so that's approved, right? 3, 2.
Right.
And your changes are approved. And we
The
prefer
downspouts.
the downspouts to be internal. And the right leader to be on the corner board, right? And
Or eliminated if we can.
and the skylight is, I guess, for a future.
My folks.
Or LEDs.
If you would, since we don't have a formal application, because of what was already approved, could you make notes on this and then everybody sign this?
Yep.
Please.
And then you're gonna make a motion.
I changed the flag on that one.
Why would you not change from two leaders? Why would you change only one? I don't understand that.
The south leader is on the corner wall.
No, he's talking about this one.
Yeah.
And that one
Yeah.
needs to go up. But on this side of the building, not the porch, it is on mine.
Okay.
I just made I made the flag taller.
Better.
It's on.
So Tom, are you gonna do a formal
Yes.
resolution?
Okay.
It's a clear one. So with those alterations from discussion, Nick is making notes of those, and we will have a signed submission of renderings. And the motion is put up by Tony. Is that right? Second by Nick, is that?
Mhm.
All right. And all those in favor? Aye.
Yes.
Aye. And no? And no?
Yes,
Okay,
I'm
so,
lawfully.
okay. So 3-2, it is approved. Okay.
Thank you.
I do think that if we remove it, it does extend that visual height even more drastically.
What was there before? I don't remember.
Well, there's no porch.
No, I don't mean
In
that.
previous
before.
presentations.
Oh, I can't remember.
I don't mean when you were a child, Thomas, I mean the last.
That was in the
presentation.
Was it solid here before?
No, just, yeah, it was solid, but there was in reaction also to the addition of the clear story windows, we have more glazing.
Yeah.
Which we're trying to combat with that skirting.
So the increase in glazing was what prompted this.
Yes.
Or retaining those.
Retain the
windows are
existing
there.
windows.
Yeah.
But what was the sign hanging on before? Nothing?
It was actually hanging over the front door, sort of backward on the facade of the building. Or I mean, the last rendering.
Hanging, it wasn't like laid on something.
Oh, in the last rendering.
Hanging.
Yeah, I think it was hanging.
Yeah, I just think that's more traditional. I mean, you guys are crazy.
That's a
You're
really-
crazy, the two of you. I love everything. I love everything that's gone so far, and this just seems like, okay.
All right, something to dream about.
Oh, your sense.
We hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
There might be another version, you never know.
that's true. You can pray
I
about it.
try not to do that, but
Wait, one more.
Okay. While he's finishing that up and we've taken the vote, we are going to move on to the last item on the agenda.
Lori, thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
Consideration. Look forward to seeing you there sometime.
This is a demolition on the first corner as you're going past the view on Stag Lake Drive. Right, did I got this? Is that right, sir? Term for the verb? Stag Lake. right?
Sag Lake.
Yeah. Okay, so you have pictures of,
Well, it says the Sag Main Street.
right. Technical address, all of that is Sag Main Street,
Yeah, I think it must be.
but
It
I'm
is.
just using the street,
Sag Lake is what it's called.
right, but these are all flag lots off of Sag Main. So you've got a photo gallery of existing conditions,
Just sign it.
worn and worn and wear. Right, and so we're being asked to approve the demolition. Normally, we have plans for what is going to be proposed. And if I understand correctly, those are coming, is that correct?
Well, the plan, we have plans right now. The trouble is that they're just over the FAR. The plans will be very similar to what have been submitted, just slightly reduced in size each way, bringing it into compliance. But I don't know where they're stealing the room from yet. They're keeping the 3-car garage, you're losing a bay on the garage, you're making the house slightly smaller. So it will be similar to what's been submitted, but not exactly.
Yes, but I'll put no next to here.
Yeah. Or nay.
Okay.
Hell no.
Okay.
Okay,
Come on now.
almost through it.
Good afternoon, board. I'm Michael Taglavia here representing the owner from Fifth and Dune. I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay. Any particular history on this existing structure?
Yes, it's a single family residence. The existing structure is a post and beam, very little insulation value. The home had some renovations done in 1994, a dormer and a first floor deck addition. The homeowner purchased it shortly thereafter, the current owner, and it has just been sitting. Now he wants to, he has a growing family and he wants to renovate this 4-bedroom, poorly insulated structure to an 8-bedroom permanent residence for him and his growing family. And we did submit, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, when was the house built? We're looking at the historical history for the sake of the demo application.
The original, I believe, the latest thing I see in the paperwork was an area variance in 2001. And the front yard variance, I think that's what you're looking at here.
Needs 8 bedrooms.
Okay.
But I don't have any previous history with that.
It was there in the 80s. What is he saying it's built?
He's not sure.
I imagine it's late 70s, early 80s.
Shouldn't he be sure if he's asking to demolish it?
Right. Michael, do you have anything as far as a set date of construction?
Give me 1 second.
It figured next to the one that he was building his house.
I take it back. It's this one I like.
Oh, wait.
No, that's Google. That's Google Maps.
This is the
I
one.
have the CO that's dated 85. For one family dwelling in swimming pool.
Does it say the architect?
It does not.
The applicant Carol Ryan, 1 dwelling and swimming pool, no architect.
I also see that there's an addition to a house from 62.
Of that residence.
No, this residence.
It must be that age, 85. Come on, it's gotta be.
That's the bar and chairs there.
They never get more than 18.
Here.
Looks like 1985 according to the latest, or
Okay.
the original record.
And was there an architect of note?
Not noted on the original from 1985.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, there's so much, you can't see the house at all from the street.
Don't worry, you'll be able to see that.
The 8-bedroom one.
It's palatial. Okay, very good. Is there any comments or questions on the demo application?
No.
Anthony? Okay, Emily? No. Okay.
I don't think there's nothing we can say.
No, you can ask questions. That's what I asked for. Ask questions.
It's 8 bedrooms.
It's a grown.
I just hope the beams aren't being wasted, all these long beams.
No, we're going to preserve whatever we can here. Some of them are okay. A lot of them are false. They don't appear to be in the photographs, but some of them all are false and faux. But anything that's structural, we're going to try to save and reuse.
And what would be the style of your next house?
It's going to be a traditional home. There it is.
It's grand. It's a lovely design.
Strip it, go to a shed.
Sorry, it's just tough to stomach Michael after what's there now, you know?
Yeah.
That's another matter though, right?
That's
Well,
another matter.
that's up for discussion, right? Okay,
It's so sweet, that old house. I know people that used to live there in the late 80s, early 90s.
All right, thank you.
okay. Any legitimate reason to withhold this outside of a teary-eyed board?
We can't do anything.
Right. Okay. Is there a motion to regretfully move to a demolition? Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
You can say no on a demolition.
Yeah, but for like,
Yeah, just say no.
Just
Make
say
you feel
no.
better. You said no.
But she
It's-
made
it's
a
done.
motion though.
listen, if I had the property and a ton of kids, I would want to do the same thing, and there's nothing to save about this house. So I get it. I just
It's a
fear, I
sweet
just feel
house.
sad that
It's a sweet house.
when I drive around that corner, it won't be bushes, it'll be a massive house. That's just my own.
Yes.
You're right.
All
However,
right.
Okay. All those regretfully in favor?
I,
I'm not in favor.
Okay. All right, so we have 4 yeses and 1 no. Okay, very good.
Who said no?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, should we adjourn?
yeah.
We need a committee of 2 volunteers.
Anything that needs to be on the committee too, or that might.
Currently, there's nothing for us to do.
But it could come up.
Sure. Thank you. You're not supposed to sign. You didn't,
Really?
right?
Oh, shit, matters.
Or
Just
write
put
your
name next to it.
Name next to your name.
Nay.
I'll happily be on the committee of two.
I never said nay.
Right. All right. Great.
Why not? NEIG is right.
Nay, Winnie.
Can we adjourn that?
Yes. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Stop the recording, the recording.
So who's the committee?